I'm not going to be anybody's vice president. I'm not interested in being vice president. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I'm not going to be vice president. I'm not running for governor of Florida. I'm going to finish out my term in the Senate over the next 10 months. We're going to work really hard here, and we have some things we want to achieve, and then I'll be a private citizen in January.
Marco Rubio talking to reporters during his first day back at work in the United States Senate after suspending his presidential campaign. Now, you just heard him say he's not going to run for governor of Florida, and he insists he will be a private citizen after his Senate term ends. And yet there is the question, what might be in store in the future for this Florida senator? For more, I welcome to the anchor desk my old friend from Capitol Hill, my classmate back in the class of 1994, former U.S. Congressman Mark Foley. Mark, it's great to have you tonight here on Newsmax Prime.
Thanks, JD. Good to be with you, as always.
Well, we just heard Marco say he's getting out of politics, going to be a private citizen. But once the dust settles and he's gainfully employed, do you think he's going to rethink his political future?
Everybody said before the election he was angling to be governor. He saw the polls, he knew it wasn't possible, so he was going to run for governor. But a guy that loses 66 of 67 counties in Florida, who's the sitting senator, first time since 1960 that's occurred in a primary, I don't think there's a future. He may be a lobbyist, he may want to be one of those people he derided during the campaign, but I don't see a path for him. I think certainly, he got into the Gang of Eight, then backed up. People saw that as cowardice. If you're going to take on a tough position, stick with it. You know that in politics. You can't be a pro and then a con. And the voters aren't going to forgive you. Both sides become angry at you. And so I think for Marco, his future's dim. He's a bright, talented person. I think he was running prematurely. He should have run for re-election. He would have probably been easily re-elected in Florida. But for now, I can't see a pathway forward. Now, he could, yes, after this election, run for governor. I just don't see him making it.
Well, it may be a while, but there's a long time left for a young man like Marco Rubio, and we never say never in politics, do we? That's one thing we do know. But it is worth noting, you mentioned the Gang of Eight and the whole amnesty fight. Dick Morris was in this chair the other day, and he used one word to describe the Gang of Eight for Marco: lethal.
Oh, no question. JD, you and I both have been in Congress when immigration was boiling, not at the propensity it is now. But people who are legal immigrants don't agree with open borders. The Gang of Eight basically said everyone can stay. 11+ million can stay in the United States. That's anathema to voters, and specifically Hispanic voters. They spent thousands of dollars, hundreds of hours, sometimes years to become legal citizens. They now have a job, they have a family in America. So when they hear the notion that somebody can walk in, break into the country, be allowed to stay, and given a pathway to citizenship, it aggravates them because they've been true patriots. They've prescribed by the law, done everything required by the law. Now they're living the dream. They're not against people getting the same dream, but they want them to have to earn it.
It's real simple, legal, and that word has been obscured in the whole immigration debate. We've got about 30 seconds left to talk about this, and I'm just wondering, I hate to use a Clintonian term, but a third way. For example, rather than becoming a lobbyist, anything like that, do you see Marco finishing strong in the Senate over these next 10 months and then setting up almost a quasi-public initiative, whether it's with one of the universities or something that surrounds improving life in Florida? About 20 seconds.
Jeb Bush did that when he lost against Lawton Childs. He started an education initiative, and that propelled him into the governorship. So I could see Marco doing something very focused in Florida, rebuilding the brand, because he is talented. There's no question his speeches were spellbinding. He has that opportunity, but he has to figure out what is that vehicle to get there.
So finish strong in the Senate, enjoy the family back in Florida, and then consider what might be next.
Yeah, show up to work would help.
Yeah, and he will for the next 10 months. We thank you for showing up today. Mark Foley, my old congressional classmate, thanks so much. When we come back, Bernie Kerik talking criminal justice reform. That's next on Newsmax Prime.